Jai Gurudev. So we'll start with page 244 today. Who's going to start reading?
Vasistha continued, and the impurity of one's heart and mind have been destroyed by thus being devoted to prana and apana. One is free from delusion, attains inner awakening, and rests in one's own self even while doing whatever has to be done. Lord, prana arises in the lotus of the heart and terminates at a distance of 12 fingers breadths outside the body. Apana arises in the Deva Dasanta, 12 fingers breadth from the body, and terminates in the lotus of the heart. Thus, apana arises where prana terminates. Prana is like a flame and it goes up and out. Apana is like water and it goes down towards the heart lotus. Apana is the moon which protects the body from outside. Prana is like the sun or the fire and promotes the body's internal welfare. Prana generates heat in the heart space every moment, and after producing this heat, it generates heat in the space in front of the face. Apana, which is the moon, nourishes the space in front of the face, and then it nourishes the space in the heart. If one is able to reach that space where the apana unites with the prana, he does not grieve anymore, nor is he born again. In fact, it is only prana that undergoes a modification and appears as the apana after abandoning its burning heat, and then the same prana, having abandoned the coolness of the moon, gains its nature as the purifying fire of the sun. The wise ones inquire into the nature of prana as long as it does not abandon its solar nature to become lunar. One who knows the truth concerning the rising and the setting of the sun and the moon in one's own heart is not born again. He who sees the Lord, the sun in one's heart, sees the truth. In order to attain perfection, one does not prevent nor protect external darkness, but one strives to destroy the darkness of ignorance in the heart. When the external darkness goes, one is able to see the world, but when the darkness of ignorance in the heart is dispelled, there arises self-knowledge. Hence, one should strive to behold the prana and the apana, whose knowledge does liberation. Apana terminates in the heart where prana arises. Where prana is born, there apana perishes. When apana takes birth, there prana ceases. When prana has ceased to move, and when apana takes birth, there prana ceases. When prana has ceased to move, and when apana is about to rise, one experiences external kumbhaka. Rooted in this, one does not grieve anymore. When apana has ceased to move, and when prana has arisen just a little, one experiences internal kumbhaka. Rooted in this, one does not grieve anymore.
Okay. when the impurity of one's heart and mind have been destroyed by thus being devoted to prana and apana, one is freed from delusion, attains inner awakening, and rests in one's own self, even while doing whatever has to be done. Yeah, we've been practicing this now for almost 2 weeks, a little more than that. When you come to the external kumbhaka and the internal kumbhaka, what happens? What have you noticed? It's not in the book. What have you noticed?
There's a slight pause.
They're like what?
Like a pause.
Like a pause, okay.
Silence.
Like a stillness.
The stillness of heart, stillness. The stillness.
A stillness. So the stillness you're talking about is at the mind level you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you put the two poles of a magnet? Yeah. They can get attracted to each other. Have you observed how this energy is? I know you cannot feel what I'm feeling in my hands, my fingers, but you've experienced this in life. This little energy struggle. Yeah? That kind of a pause, that kind of an energy static. Have you started experiencing that at the kumbhaka? No? Start practicing a little more frequently. Make it 3 times a day, 4 times a day, wherever you are. See? Both of these will attract each other. Huh? But that little force that you feel here, if you have some 2 magnets at home, just experiment. Then you'll understand what I'm talking about. There's this force, a gap in this force that you feel. That's exactly how you feel inside and the internal kumbhaka, and you feel outside also. It's got nothing to do with the breath.
I think I know what you mean. It's like when you're observing the prana, right? Like when, like that magnetic force that you feel inside.
Yeah.
Like it's not the breath. I get that.
Yeah.
You're talking about that, the gap between when it's like you feel the energy here more.
Yes.
And like down, so that's the gap you're talking about between the going down and coming back.
Exactly. Yes. That gap is the kumbhaka, and that feels like this little force between the two. Yeah. The forces of attraction, if I let it go, it attracts. Yeah. It's not the force of repulsion. It's not opposite poles. Yeah. It's the same poles, but there is a kind of a force when I don't let it come together. That kind of force you'll feel at the gap. Yeah, that's number 1. Number 2, at this gap, you can feel the difference in temperature. Yeah, when I'm observing the prana, when I'm outside, yeah, I have started breathing out. So the heat from my body has started coming out. Yeah, when I reach outside, the cool breath from outside is going to start coming in. Let's start with just focusing on the temperature of the breath. Slowly you take your attention to the temperature of the external kumbhaka and internal kumbhaka. Yeah, and you tell me what that is. Yeah, so you'll add this to your meditation, observing the temperature of the in-breath and the out-breath. Out-breath is prana, In breath is apana. Yeah, so this is your homework. I won't answer that for you. Yeah, but you know from regular biology class that when you breathe out, yeah, all the heat from the body is coming out. Yeah, just keep your fingers, your hand in front of your nose. You'll experience it's warm. Yeah, take your hand away, take a deep breath in. You'll feel it cool in your nostrils. By the time it goes in, it starts getting warmer and warmer and warmer. Yeah, especially in winter, it's easier to, see the temperature. In summer, it's very difficult to distinguish. Yeah, so it's very easy. Practice this, just observing the temperature in and out and in and out and in and out, and then focus on that gap. What is the temperature there? That is your homework. You tell me next week. So in the gap, the mind stops. Yeah, it becomes totally still. And when you practice this over a long period of time, what happens is that this tendency of the mind to unnecessarily chat starts reducing because you're more aware. Yeah, the more you are aware, the mind is like that mischievous kid. When you're not looking at him, he wants to play around. When you're looking at him, he wants to be disciplined. So just because of observing the prana in and out, I have made my awareness very sharp. And then when my awareness is sharp, I experience that no mind, which is in the external gap and internal gap, I can bring it into my prana, apana also. And that's how you can move from mind to no mind. Yeah? That's how, when the impurity of one's heart and mind have been destroyed by thus being devoted to prana and apana, one is freed from delusion. Yeah? Here impurity is nothing but the chitter-chatter of the mind. Yeah? Negativities come up, jealousy comes up, hatred comes up, mind goes on and on and on. No? That is what is the impurity. Once you have gained the skill of mastering this, these impurities drop. When impurities drop, the duration of no mind increases. When the duration of no mind increases, one is freed from delusion. Yeah? Understand, delusion is nothing but that dream-like state of the mind, which is all the time there. Yeah, you might be really sitting here and looking at me and listening to me, but still the mind is talking. If the mind is talking, you are in an illusion or delusion-like state. Yeah? Very few moments you're 100% here. Those few moments are the moments of complete awareness, which are free from delusion. So with practice on the Kumbhaka, when my duration of no mind increases, obviously my delusion period decreases. Got it? You will attain inner awakening. Inner awakening again means nothing but recognition of the self, of the Purusha. In that no mind, in that gap, I experience myself. Yeah? You cannot experience the self when the mind is talking. Yeah? It's only in those gaps where the mind is silent. That's where you experience the self. And then you rest in your own self, even while doing whatever has to be done. So see here, Vasistha is also encouraging you to not only just do this for 15-20 minutes of pranayam, but to bring it into everyday life, whether you're in office, you're with friends, family, you keep observing the prana and apana. And the more you observe, you'll notice when you're feeling good, it is different. When you're not feeling, so good, it is different. When you're talking to friends, it's very different. When you're talking to your family members, it's very different. It's interesting to watch it, but for that you have to become very sharp. Recognizing you need like a very sharp, astute kind of awareness to know this. So you have to make your awareness really sharp. Keep working, you'll understand exactly what he's talking about. Lord, prana arises in the lotus of the heart and terminates at a distance of 12 finger breadths outside the body. It's a repetition, you know this. Apana arises in the Dvadashanta, 12 finger breadths from the body, and terminates in the lotus of the heart. Thus, Apana arises where prana terminates. Prana is like a flame, it goes up and out. Apana is like water and it goes down towards the heart lotus. This whole paragraph was a repetition. We know this now well. Apana is the moon which protects the body from outside. This is very important. Now, 12 finger breadths around me is the subtle body. Now the subtle body is nothing but that pranic body which has nadis flowing out. What protects this space is apanavayu. It protects it and nourishes it with coolness because the body generates heat. The heat moves outside. Heat always radiates upwards and outwards, and coolness always comes down, displaces heat. We've studied this in physics. That's exactly what prana and apana do. That's why I'm asking you to observe the temperature and the gaps now and tell me. Clear? Prana is like the sun or the fire and promotes the body's internal welfare. Prana generates heat in the heart space every moment. And after producing this heat, it generates heat in the space in front of the face. Apana, which is the moon, nourishes the space in front of the face and then it nourishes the space in the heart. Got it? Prana begins at the heart lotus. It generates heat. How does this human body live? If this human body's age is 80 years, that's how long the prana will keep generating that heat, that energy. When the body has to die, the first thing that happens is this prana stops generating that heat energy. That mechanism in the heart lotus dies first. That's why they say the prana has left when somebody dies. So that's how it stops functioning. So that is what keeps this body alive for whatever 70, 80, 100, whatever is the age of this body. It generates that heat radiates out through the prana. Apana's job is to bring the coolness in and cool this body. Apana, which is the moon, nourishes the space in front of the face and then it nourishes the space in the heart. This we understood. It starts from here and then it goes to the heart. Now you will think, it's not going from behind. It's all around. It does not distinguish between, hands, face, back. It does not know. For it is one pranic body. It's like an electrical body. This body has electrical charge, right? We've studied this. Very subtle charge your body has, but you're really a battery. A feeble battery, hardly any current, but little bit is there, very little. And that current is what? That current is really this pranic body, this mechanism of prana. That current is nothing but what the pranic body loans to this physical body. Yeah? At the atomic level, if you remember physics class, you have done that we have positive and negative charge. Yeah? An atom will have a proton in the center and an electron in the orbit going round and round. Yes? There is a charge between these two, and there is a charge between the adjoining atoms. Yeah? These charges, what they do is actually this negative gets attracted to this positive, and this negative gets attracted to this positive, this negative gets attracted to this positive. That's how charge actually flows in your body, and that charge is nothing but the electromagnetic field between the atoms. Too much physics, I know, but I just brought this point out, is how does this mechanism work? How does this mechanism know that I have to start at this particular time, and how does this mechanism know 90 years, 100 years, whatever is the age of the body, it's over now, I have to stop this transfer of electrons between the atoms. This is ruled by the prana, the pranic body. Yeah? So pranic body is nothing but electrical charges or impulses. Yeah? That is what is experienced as heat coming out, and then apana is the coolness going in. Yeah? If one is able to reach that space where the apana unites with the prana, he does not grieve anymore, nor is he born again. Yeah? This is again about the gap where there is no mind. In that no mind, in that gap, what happens? This transfer of electrons to protons, for a moment there is a pause. There is a pause in the physical activity. There is a pause in your subtle body's activity. In that gap, you actually are closest to the causal body. Got it? That is why the gap has so much importance. Because in that gap, the activity of the subtle body has reduced because of the reduction of the pranic energy. The mind also stops, because mind moves along with the prana. Prana goes up, mind goes up. Prana comes down, mind comes down. They are like that magnetic I showed you last time, right? Yeah. So because for a moment prana pauses, freezes, the mind also freezes. Yes. And in that little gap, you are the closest to the causal body. That
So
is...
subtle body has atoms.
No, auntie, this is the physical body. I just explained the atoms in the physical body.
You said in the pranic body, the electron charge changes into,
No, auntie, this is in the physical body.
That's in the physical body?
Yes, auntie. What is driving this is the prana. When does that electron know not to move towards the next proton? How does the electromagnetic field stop suddenly at the point of death? What is driving it? That is the prana which is driving it. The prana in the subtle body is driving, for example, this is a thin partition. The prana in the subtle body is actually driving the atoms in the physical body. Yeah? The moment this prana stops moving and leaves the body, these atoms, they die. Yeah? That's how the body dies. Got it? So the atoms are only in the physical body, not in the pranic body. In the pranic body, it's just electricity, just energy. That energy that you're experiencing when you breathe out and when you breathe back in, that magnetic pull, that same magnetic like energy is that which is driving the force between these electrons and protons and creating the electromagnetic field in the body. Clear? In fact, it is only prana that undergoes a modification and appears as apana after abandoning its burning heat. Yeah, so it begins at the heart lotus, heat starts radiating out, prana is coming out, it comes outside. Here what happens? There is kumbhaka, a pause, it abandons the heat, all the coolness starts coming back in. Yeah, and this is called apana, and it's going back into the heart lotus. Then the same prana, having abandoned the coolness of the moon, gains its nature as the purifying fire of the sun. Now it is back into the heart lotus. The job of the heart lotus again is to generate that heat, yeah, that electricity. Again it abandons its coolness, and then the prana starts and the heat starts coming out. The wise ones inquire into the nature of prana as long as it does not abandon its solar nature to become lunar. Again, solar is heat, lunar is the coolness. One who knows the truth concerning the rising and setting of the sun and the moon in one's own heart is not born again. He who sees the Lord, the sun, in one's heart sees the truth. Yeah, so they are calling the heart lotus as the sun. Yeah, when this heat is coming out and it's coming towards the coolness, this is the setting of the sun. Yeah, this is going to, the apana comes up, that is the rising of the moon, and it comes back to the heart lotus. Clear?
Can I ask a question about the previous sentence? So, I don't know whether this is just semantics, but when it says the wise one inquires into the nature of prana, as long as it does not abandon its solar nature to become lunar, it almost sounds like there is an option.
The wise one?
Language.
Yeah. When you breathe out, it is solar. Yeah. When you breathe in, it is lunar. Now, I have not abandoned my solar, and I have not even started on the journey of my lunar. Where am I? In the gap. The wise one inquires into the gap. Again, all shlokas are very poetic, okay? And this whole page is just a repetition. It is really just one thing. Focus on kumbhaka. That's all. The whole page is over. He who sees the Lord, the sun, in one's heart sees the truth. Again, in the heart is the internal kumbhaka. You're getting it? They're just poetically describing it in different ways. In order to attain perfection, one does not prevent nor protect external darkness, but one strives to destroy the darkness of ignorance in the heart. When the external darkness goes, one is able to see the world. But when the darkness of ignorance in the heart is dispelled, there arises self-knowledge. Hence one should strive to behold the prana and apana, whose knowledge bestows liberation. Yeah? He compared this external light and darkness with the internal light and darkness. Yeah? Here I can switch on light and it takes the darkness away immediately. But inside, I have to really make an effort. self-knowledge is required to take away all this negativity. Yeah? It's not that I am very bad, I'm negative. You don't beat yourself up. It is just a play of Maya, and you got caught up in Maya. Several lifetimes have gone. This is the chance where somebody like Sri Sri Ravi Shankar comes with a little torch in his hand. Yeah? And there you see a little bit of light. But he cannot really make the sun rise inside you. He can just show you the path with that light. That torch is in his hand. He's showing you the path. He's saying, now walk. If you keep walking in this direction without getting distracted right or left, you will reach a point where the sun will start rising. Yeah? That is the self-knowledge. Yeah? When self-knowledge really dawns, this darkness of ignorance is dispelled. Darkness of ignorance means what? I get lost in this attachment, that attachment. I'm averse to this, I'm averse to that. My mind is constantly talking. Intellect is stuck in that, in this. So much drama I've created. I create this drama. Now I'm struggling to push this drama away. Another spiritual aspiration now I have. Yeah? But I like this drama also. With one hand I'm holding on to the drama. With the other hand I'm holding on to the spiritual knowledge. Now there's a new tug of war. Initially it was just material. Now it is material spiritual. I've just created more and more drama and I'm getting seeped into this Maya. This is the darkness of ignorance. He says it's very simple. All you have to do is move away from mind to no mind. Then whatever works for you, you make it happen. Because in that state of no mind, the body freezes, the subtle body freezes, and you are closest to the causal. Yes, and that's how prana and apana can help you. That is why pranayam was given so much importance. So if you really look, what is Sudarshan Kriya? What is breathing in, breathing out? You're again focusing on apana, prana. That's all you're doing. Yeah? And somewhere breathing in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. After some time, the chest is so full, you don't need to breathe at all. And then suddenly the breath stops. And the breath stops, and for a few, say, fractions of seconds, the mind stops. And you experience that absolute melting feeling inside. Have you experienced that? You're just melting inside. You're just absolutely feeling so relaxed, so calm. Yeah? That's the main objective of the Kriya, to increase the Kumbhaka duration. That is why he says, no, do not sleep, do not meditate, come what may, keep breathing. Why all these instructions are there? So that at the end, when you are done with enough prana apana, your kumbhaka duration is longer. And there you can experience no mind. Got it? The wise ones inquire into the nature of prana as long as it does not abandon its solar nature to become lunar. One who knows the truth concerning the rising and setting of the sun and moon in one's own heart is not born again. And he who sees the Lord, the sun, in one's heart sees the truth. In order to attain perfection, one does not prevent nor protect external darkness, but one strives to destroy the darkness of ignorance in the heart. When this darkness of ignorance which is inside, when you can destroy that, that is really perfection. Perfection is not really keeping things in the right place, doing things, everything according, to the clock and I don't know what else, having a timetable for everything. That's not really perfection. He says, in order to attain perfection, One does not prevent nor protect external darkness. Means don't focus on the external, but strive to destroy the darkness of ignorance in the heart. Yeah? Once this darkness is destroyed, you will be perfect automatically. When the external darkness goes, one is able to see the world. But when the darkness of ignorance in the heart is dispelled, there arises self-knowledge. Hence, one should strive to behold the prana and apana, whose knowledge bestows liberation. Apana terminates in the heart where prana arises. This is again a repetition. Yeah, you've taken your breath in, apana is in, has reached the internal kumbhaka, it terminates there. There prana arises. Where prana is born, there apana perishes. Poetic license, guys. Where apana takes birth, there prana ceases. Yeah? And when prana has ceased to move, and when apana takes birth, there prana ceases. Yeah? Just poetic license. It's a repetition of the same thing. When prana has ceased to move and apana is about to rise, once one experiences external kumbhaka. Rooted in this, one does not grieve anymore. When apana has ceased to move and when prana has risen just a little, we are back inside, one experiences internal kumbhaka. Rooted in this, one does not grieve anymore. Clear? One full page he took to say only one thing. Focus on internal kumbhaka and external kumbhaka. That's it. Who will read ahead now?
I can read. If one practices kumbhaka, suspension of breath, after exhaling the prana to a distance further from where the apana rises, the 12-finger breath distance, he is not subject to sorrow anymore. Or if one is able to see the space within oneself where the inhaled breath turns into the impulse of exhalation, he is not born again. By seeing where the prana and the apana terminate their motions, and by holding fast to that state of peace, one is not subject to sorrow again. If one keenly observes the place and the exact moment at which the prana is consumed by the apana, he does not grieve. Or, if one keenly observes the place and the exact moment at which the apana is consumed by prana, his mind does not arise again. Therefore, behold that place and that moment at which prana is consumed by apana, and apana is consumed by prana inside and outside the body. For that precise moment at which the prana has ceased to move and the apana has not begun to move, there arises the kumbhaka, which is effortless. The wise regard that as an important state. When there is effortless suspension of breath, it is the supreme state. This is the self. It is pure infinite consciousness. He who reaches this does not grieve. I contemplate that infinite consciousness, which is the indwelling presence in the prana, but which is neither with prana nor other than prana. I contemplate that infinite consciousness, which is the indwelling presence in the apana, but which is neither with apana nor other than apana. That which is after the prana and the apana have ceased to be, and which is in the middle between prana and apana, I contemplate that infinite consciousness. I contemplate that consciousness which is the prana of prana, which is the life of life, which alone is responsible for the preservation of the body, which is the mind of mind, the intelligence of the intellect, the reality in the ego sense. I salute that consciousness in which all things abide, from which they emerge, which is all and everywhere, and which is all, in all, and eternal, which is the purifier of all, and whose vision is most meritorious. I salute that consciousness in which prana ceases to move, but apana does not arise, and which dwells in the space in front or at the root of the nose. I salute the consciousness which is the source for both prana and apana, which is the energy in both prana and apana, and which enables the senses to function. I salute that consciousness which is in fact the essence of the internal and the external kumbhaka, which is the only goal of the contemplation of prana, which enables the prana to function, and which is the cause of all causes. I take refuge in that supremely.
Okay. So now we spoke about the pranic body. But what is that runs the pranic body? What was responsible for this pranic body to come into existence?
Consciousness.
So, consciousness, you mean Brahman consciousness?
Or individual.
The ego, the I.
The ego.
Yeah. In the individual consciousness, I arose and you came out of that pool of consciousness. Yeah. First there was I, that is ego. Then there was desire. I want, I don't want. Yeah. So the first is I. That I leads to the creation of this pranic body. Yeah. This pranic body has been formed. It says I. It has an individual identity different from the ocean of consciousness. So if the ocean of consciousness is vibrating this way, I am an individual consciousness, pranic body, which wants to vibrate this way. Ego always wants to do the opposite, right? Have you noticed? So this pranic body wants to go this way when the ocean is vibrating this way. That is desire. Just that wanting to do the opposite of what is already desire. It does not have to be in thought form. Yeah. That's where the subtle body is formed. Got it? Then, of course, the subtle body says that I want to be whatever earth, water, fire, ether, air, or the combination of it, and then finally the physical body came out. Yeah. In that physical body, of course, many lifetimes, and then the mind comes up. In a subtle form, the mind is already there because it has said I and the want. Yeah. But this intellectual analysis and all we can just do in this human form. Yeah. So the mind graduates to this level in 84,000 lifetimes to be able to even understand its own history. How I came here, how I reached here. Yeah? So we have reached here, we have understood this entire story. All we need to do is go back to the root cause and nip it in its bud. So what does this really mean? What needs to be done? What needs to be uprooted? What is the meaning of liberation, no mind? What will happen?
Uproot the ignorance of
Okay.
who you are.
Yeah, okay. Means what?
Means by practicing the watching the gap, that only pure consciousness, awareness is there, no mind is there. So then you realize that's who you are.
Okay, and then what?
And that little bit, at that time there is no I at that time. But again, when the I comes back pretty soon.
Yeah. Now, then what? What are we really attempting to do in this whole process?
Go back.
We are trying to realize that pure awareness part of ours.
And what will happen by Realizing that I am awareness, I am consciousness. What?
It's a duality. It's going back to the source.
Which means,
Recognizing.
You want to get rid of the desire, right? The one of trying to go to the other side.
means what is going to happen? Okay, I have understood. Then what is going to happen?
I recognize I'm not different. I recognize there is no duality.
Okay, perfect. I understand there is no dvandva, there is no dvaitam. I understand there is advait. I establish myself in advait. I reach that highest state of liberation, of truth. Then what? What happens?
I'm going to stay in that state. That is the peace
Okay.
that you are looking for.
To prevent from coming back out again.
You don't born again if you don't have the
Perfect. So this physical body that came out, this will not happen again. Yeah? Then what happens? But I am that jiva. I don't know how you want to draw it. Some electrical current.
Jiva will be with God. Isn't that what devotion is all about?
Okay, okay. So I realize the highest truth. I drop the body. I am the jiva. Now what?
Devotion to God.
Does this jiva not have the I and the want?
Want may be not there.
You have.
I probably will be there little.
Because you're still in that wave function, that opportunity will always be there because consciousness is always ever changing and moving.
Yes.
So the wave function will be there that where again the I can dawn again.
Perfect.
And the idea is how do you prevent that
How?
I coming up again?
Exactly. So now you have dropped the body, you have moved on to your subtle body only and the pranic body here. But there is this danger of the I or the danger of the want, the desire to come. And then you'll again come back into the cycle. Yes? So
One thing Busunda says, even though he is doing all that gap thing and all, practicing, still why are you keeping this body? He says, after all these kalpas also, why you are keeping this body? Then he says, finally it's not, it's God's will. So at one point, for all jivas, it's the will of God. At one point, to come back or not come back, stay in that form or not to stay in that form. How much is our will?
okay, you have to understand there is really no man sitting up there in the clouds that is deciding how much Aruna is going to, do this or that. Really, there is nobody. You know this very clearly, right?
No, I don't know that clearly.
Okay, so know that clearly. There is really nobody out there who's keeping this debit or credit or guiding you. You are by yourself. Human does not like this. Oh my God, I'm by myself. It's all on me. It's my responsibility. No. It's not my responsibility. I don't want to take this up. That's when the idol was created and the God sitting in sky was created.
So Busunda is saying, it's not my will, then what is the meaning?
Again, you have to understand, he's not taking the doership. I am not the doer. Yeah.
So who is the doer? Who wants him to be like that?
Again, there is no who in the picture because who does not exist. God is not a person. The entire existence is God. Remember we did it? Yeah.
But that individual jiva Busunda is there, right?
Again, he is there because of the laws of nature. He created so many karmas, he will have to take that many lifetimes to exhaust that karma, even if he's become a Jivan Mukta. It's the law, it's called Niyati. And he's calling Niyati equals to God. There is really nobody sitting up there. Yeah, be absolutely clear about this.
It's the law of nature.
Yes. Yeah. That law you can call God. Yeah? Or this ocean of prana in which we are all living, that is God. Yeah? There is no person, and I have to go back into that ocean of consciousness. I came out because of I, no? So my job is to drop the I. That is where the first step Bhusunda has taken and said, I am not the doer. It is all God's will. Yeah, that means it is my karma, that law I have to follow and go through various lifetimes and reach this stage. Got it? Yeah. So what is happening here? Back to our discussion. Yeah. Here the body has dropped. I have moved on, but I exist in a subtle form. Otherwise you could not exist in this form also. Are you getting this? The complete giving in to this law of nature, to Niyati, is the only way where you can say Niyati is driving everything and I am just an instrument. When you drop that I also, yeah, you stop feeding the ego that way. Have you noticed you feed your ego? Yeah. Somebody says something nice. Oh, I'm feeling so good. I want to listen again. I want to be with that person again. I keep feeding the ego. It keeps growing bigger and bigger. If I really want to go back, I have to kill this ego. It's not going to die in one shot. Yeah, I have to stop this feeding. Yeah. It comes to a point where it's totally shriveled and it dies. There is no question of I anymore, not even a subtle I. Then even this gets wiped off.
Is this where all those lokas play a role? Because when you talked about it once, like at the very highest level, there is just no desire, nothing.
Yes.
Will come out of that pool.
Right. That is Satloka. When you reach Satloka, this also dies. Yeah. Now, it does not mean that I have to go from one loka to another loka stepwise. It's not like that. It totally depends on the intensity of my commitment on this path. I can skip several lokas and directly go to Maharloka, where the Siddhas are. In this lifetime, there is no need to go through the intermittent Pitraloka and Devaloka. There's no need of all that drama, because this is where you're stuck. Yeah? At Maharloka also, the subtle I is there, but desire is completely dead. Yeah? There's a complete death of the mind. The subtle I still exists and recognizes that the journey has to be upwards, not downwards anymore. So it just works on killing that subtle I also. And that's how you reach the highest. Got it? Just observing that Kumbhaka can give you a glimpse of that ego, that subtle I where desire has dropped. Just the I which is enough for this body to exist. Got it? Why Kumbhaka is so important? It can actually give you a glimpse of that nothingness which cannot be drawn. Yes, it can actually give you that glimpse. So that is why practice this with earnestness, with lot of sincerity. You don't know what technique might work for you. Yeah? Just observe the prana, observe the temperature of the breath, observe the gap, keep observing, make your mind sharper and sharper. Yeah? This is not about expanding the mind, this is about actually focusing, ekagrata. Yeah? When you keep focusing, you will observe that gap outside very clearly and that gap inside very clearly. Yeah? And then that gap can increase. if one keenly observes the place and the exact moment at which the prana is consumed by the apana, he does not grieve. Yeah? Or if one keenly observes the place and the exact moment at which the apana is consumed by prana, his mind does not arise again. Nothing but external kumbhaka and internal kumbhaka. Therefore, behold that place and that moment at which prana is consumed by apana and apana is consumed by prana inside and outside the body. For that precise moment at which the prana has ceased to move and the apana has not begun to move, there arises a kumbhaka which is effortless. This is the key. We keep saying in Ashtavakra Gita, be a sakshi, be a witness. Remember? And every action you do out of spontaneity. Yeah? Where do you think this action really comes from? A child is falling, I don't sit and think, calculate. How much is he going to return back to me? Is he a good child? Has he been good with me or not? You just go and hold the kid, right? Where does the spontaneity come from? It comes from that space of no mind. You are not thinking at that moment. Have you noticed? Yes? Kumbhaka is the answer. Yes, spontaneous action comes from kumbhaka, comes from no mind. Yeah, like that, take your mind to so many things that you've done spontaneously. Impulsiveness is not spontaneity. We've discussed this n number of times. You always say, oh, impulsive shopping. There was no mind. I spent $10,000 on shoes. No, we are not talking about impulsive. When you're impulsive, there is a raga or dvesha. Raga and dvesha equals to mind.
I wanted to share an example of what you were just saying. It struck me very interesting. In that book, Proof of Heaven, the doctor goes back. He obviously experienced, post-life, but he talked about that state that you were just talking about, and we don't even realize that it happens. He talks about like he was parachuting, and they do these air formations, and there was a major accident about to happen, and he had literally a fraction of a second to analyze the whole situation and make a decision that would save his life and save the lives of others. And he talked about it. He said, like, my mind could not have processed that. Like, I don't know where it came from. So that's its spontaneity. Like, how do you know when there's less than a fraction of a second, what's the right thing to do? Whether it's where you're driving a car and it's an accident you're trying to avert, something comes and it's not your brain processing, right? It comes from a completely different place.
Exactly. So it's not always your mind or thoughts or intellect that is important for you to make decisions. When that state of no mind is there, the clarity is optimum. That clarity cannot be beaten with mind going on like this all the time. Yeah, because yapping mind is only clouds, grey clouds in the sky. There is no clarity. Clarity is only when the mind is shut off. Yes, that's where spontaneous action comes from the silence, from the no mind. Clear? Yeah. Now, if I had explained this to you when we were doing Ashtavakra, you'd be like, what is she talking about? For that precise moment at which the prana has ceased to move and the apana has not begun to move, there arises a kumbhaka which is effortless. The wise regard this as an important state. Yeah, because from here spontaneous action comes. When there is effortless suspension of breath, it is the supreme state. This is the self. It is pure, infinite, consciousness. He who reaches this does not grieve. I skipped the first paragraph, right? Okay. We'll just go back to that. If one practices kumbhaka, suspension of breath, after exhaling the prana to a distance farther from where the apana rises, the 12-fingered breath distance, he is not subject to sorrow anymore. It's the same repetitive, there's nothing new. Or if one is able to see the space within oneself where the inhaled breath turns into the impulse for exhalation, he is not born again. Same, internal kumbhaka. By seeing where the prana and the apana terminate their motions, and by holding fast to that state of peace, one is not subject to sorrow again. Why? Sorrow is equal to I, is equal to want or not want. Yeah, and from there the whole lifetime after lifetime we got caught up. Yeah. So basically, coming into body equals sorrow. What do we think? No, I get some appreciation, I get some money. That is sukha. That is not sorrow. That is happiness. Yeah, somebody criticizes me, or I don't get money, or I don't get name, fame. That is sorrow. That is dukkha. No, this is an incorrect understanding. Yeah? This understanding we have because we had still limited vision about this physical body only. Yeah, and we thought when this body is born, that is the beginning, and when this body dies, that is the end. But no, there is multiple lifetimes in this equation. You're born and you die. Again another plus, you're born and you die. Again another plus, you're born and you die. And like this, so many birth and death form your entire life. And you're stuck in this cycle. You're stuck only because of I. And you're stuck why? Because of holding on to sukha and rejecting the dukkha. He's saying, no, it's not just about this physical body, it's about this entire equation. To get rid of even coming into this physical body without permission. Nobody asked me, you want to be born here? Yeah. Take my permission. Ask me. If I want to come, I'll come. Then it is called liberation. Otherwise, I'm bound, no? Yeah. To be able to get out of this bondage. Yeah. That itself is awakening, realization, liberation, moksha. And the lack of that is sorrow. Understood?
It's tough. Years and years of conditioning. There's a fear, right, linked with this is the only way we've grown up knowing this. These are the things that are important. And to gradually peel that off and say it doesn't matter, doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. It's a long journey.
It just takes some intensive workout. It really is an intensive workout. You cannot just say, oh, only 5 minutes in a day I will do it and the rest I'm going to go back to my holy moly way of living the way I want to live. It doesn't work.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Because we even experienced that few seconds, right, of that kumbhaka, and then boom, you're back into life, and you have to constantly, like the awareness required.
Yes.
It has to be so high to even maintain any of the knowledge, any of the things that we have experienced in our morning meditation or whatever it is. There's so much conditioning.
It will go. It goes very easily with your intensity of commitment. How intense you are about it. How badly do you want it? Are you like ready to die for it? If I put this realization, self-realization on one hand, and I put your darling husband, Prashanjit, on the other, and I tell you, choose.
Hey!
See, that's the thing.
You're getting them in trouble, Ektaji. Oh my God. Bad example.
No, but it's true. I get it. Like, theoretically, it's all there.
You will come to a state like that.
Millie, don't even say that right now.
Thank you for marriage counseling, Sandesh.
No, it's good. Prashanjit is walking the path with you.
So you won't mind, no?
Yeah.
We're both in the journey together.
Yeah. You remember Ashtavakra, there was a story of a king and queen where the king and queen are just sitting quietly in their beautiful pleasure garden, and the queen tells the king that, you know what, I have been thinking for a very long time and I only love myself. And then the king looks at her and says, you know what, I also think the same. I only love myself, and I could not come up with the courage to tell you that. You remember the story? It was in Ashtavakra Gita. Yeah? The truth, when it comes out, both of them can walk the path very easily. Otherwise, honey, I love you, darling. All this is also Maya, creating Maya for each other. Yeah? That's why I say it's very easy to walk this path when your spouse is with you. You're really lucky. You're blessed, both of you walking together. Now the others don't start feeling rare. I don't have a spouse, or my spouse is not walking. It's okay. Whatever Niyati wants. Yeah? Just keep walking. Just keep walking. Yeah? Someday something will happen. A blossoming will happen. Yeah? That is why when I hear a romantic song, I think about the Brahman consciousness. Yeah? How can somebody even sing this song for a woman? Where, in which world is this woman? I cannot really put a romantic song for a woman. It doesn't go together for me. It's always the Lord. Yeah? And you'll reach there. You'll reach there. Keep walking. That's what the last paragraph is. I contemplate the infinite consciousness, which is the indwelling presence in the prana, but which is neither with prana nor other than prana. Yeah? So like the ocean is there all around the fish. The fish is in the ocean. Yeah? Water from the ocean is inside the fish also. But still, yeah, the entire infinite consciousness, though being around and inside, you still cannot say it is different and it is the same. Yeah? I contemplate that infinite consciousness, which is the indwelling presence in the apana, but which is neither with apana nor other than apana. That which is after the prana and the apana have ceased to be, and which is in the middle between prana and apana, I contemplate that infinite consciousness. Yeah? In that kumbhaka, in that gap, I come so close to the causal body, yeah? To that state of no mind. Yeah? Where the prana has not arisen, the apana has ended, or where the prana has ended and the apana has not arisen. In that kumbhaka, in that silence, I contemplate that self-consciousness, the infinite consciousness. What is the meaning of contemplate? Brahman consciousness, Brahman consciousness, Brahman consciousness, Brahman consciousness. This is contemplation? What is contemplation?
Observing.
Recognizing, that, oh, it is just that energy, it is that Brahman consciousness. Same eyes. Yeah, same eyes can look at things and people around and just see things and people. Yeah, but the same eyes can look at things and people around and observe, wow, how a person moves, how a person gets angry, how the same person becomes sad, how the same person becomes happy and is jumping with joy. There's so much energy which is moving up and down. What is running this person? What is running this computer? What is running this camera? What is running this table? This table just doesn't move. What is it? Something that has a magical power to it, that it can manifest in so many different things. And one day everything just gets destroyed. Everything just gets wiped off. Everything is so magical. Same person, same eyes. It's just changing the way you look at things. Yeah, just recognizing that in everything and everyone. Even in a boss that is screaming and shouting at you that you are not doing your job well. Yeah, being able to see the Brahman consciousness in that anger. Yeah, that is contemplating. Yeah. I contemplate that consciousness which is the prana of prana, which is the life of life, which alone is responsible for the preservation of the body, which is the mind of mind, the intelligence in the intellect, the reality in the ego sense. Yeah, it has given the physical body we discussed the subtle body, prana, we discussed the mind here, the intellect, yeah, but it also gives the energy for this entire existence to work around each other. Sun rises at a particular time. The sun rises, then only the flower blooms, then only the bird wakes up, then only the bird goes out looking for food. Yeah, then only the chirping around happens. Yeah, all the flowers start blossoming. Sun comes up, humans wake up, they go to work. Your body cycle works so beautifully. At the end of the day, the human wants to sleep, the bird wants to sleep, the sun has gone, the moon is up. It's working so magnificently like clockwork. And there is no faltering. There is no flaw in the working of this mechanism. Isn't it amazing? The entire earth is like one breathing organism. Now think about so many other planets. They themselves have their own kind of sun setting and sun rising and moon setting, of all those things happening on their planets. It's so amazing. The entire multiverse is working so beautifully. So what is the life of this life? That Brahman consciousness, the ocean in which we all are. And the reality in the ego sense. This is like the most important, you should highlight that. Yeah? That ego, the I that came from that infinite consciousness only, just because of that individual vibration in the consciousness and my identification with that individual vibration. I salute that consciousness in which all things abide, from which they emerge, which is all and everywhere, and which is all in all and eternal, which is purifier of all and whose vision is most meritorious. Vision means the infinite consciousness does not have eyes to see. Yeah. On the other hand, it means when I, a mortal being in the physical body, have the courage to drop the desire, have the courage to drop the I, the ego, and rise to that level where I can actually have the vision of the infinite consciousness. That is what they are talking about. Yeah? When I have that vision, and that vision is the most meritorious. Yeah? And it is purifier of all, it is eternal, it is everywhere. These are all things we know. I salute that consciousness in which prana ceases to move, but apana does not arise, and which dwells in the space in front or at the root of the nose. I salute the consciousness which is the source for both prana and apana, which is the energy in both prana and apana, and which enables the senses to function. This is very clear, no? Body is functioning, breath is functioning, senses are functioning because of the pranic body. Pranic body is functioning because of the infinite consciousness. Yeah? If this infinite consciousness will stop, everything will stop. So without the consciousness, subtle body and physical body will cease to exist. I salute that consciousness, which is in fact the essence of the internal and external kumbhaka, which is the only goal of the contemplation of prana, which enables the prana to function and which is the cause of all causes. I take refuge in that Supreme Being. Cause of all causes also, you understand? The beginning. Yeah? The first vibration arose in the Brahman consciousness, right? Yeah. So the cause was that vibration. But my problem was I identified with that vibration and I said I. Yeah. So the cause of all causes is that. Clear? Next page is also a repetition. Will you read that? One page? No? No, not now. Now it's too late. I'm saying for homework.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Will you do homework if I give you one page? Yeah? It's the same repetition, no? Same thing is repeated. See if you can do this one page. Okay? Page 246 for homework. Okay. Any questions?
So when we have that, we're talking about spontaneity, right? When we have that no mind, it's spontaneous. Is it also this? That's when you say you become that vessel, so all the energy just flows through, and that's all the actions come. So you actually are not the doer. You just is that energy that's making things happen. The way it's supposed to happen.
Exactly.
And when our mind is always chattering, we just cloud that energy doesn't come anymore.
Exactly. Then I say, I did it. Yeah, it's like I'm flowing in the river. I'm a little leaf. I don't have the strength to even forget the current of the river, but even one little drop of water. Yeah, but I say, see, I am going south. I always wanted to go south. Yeah, the doership is coming in. That doership is what clouds the vision and creates the ignorance.
Even the doership is based on all wrong concepts. Like we are so convinced that we are right in what we're thinking.
Yes.
The word delusion is so appropriate because more often than not we'll find what we were thinking is nothing close to what was really happening. So it really just clouds the mind.
Exactly. That is why knowledge is so important, because knowledge is like a vacuum cleaner. It cleans this negativity, these concepts, these silly ideas, judgments, all that I had formed, all the conditioning. Still I hold on to it. My ego doesn't want to let go. Have you noticed? Yeah. Knowledge is taking it away from me, but I still want to hold on to it. I'm telling you, there is no God sitting up there in the cloud. For 10 minutes you let it go, again you hold it back. No, there is a God. And the God drives everything. Yeah, it's so difficult to let go. Slowly, it starts dropping off.
And sometimes the intellect also fools us because we rationalize it. Like the doership and understanding of it, like we understand it. So that also is bad.
Yes. Again, that I understand also, the I is the problem. I is the root cause. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do in Bhagavad Gita. Attack the I.
Good.
It's about time.
Yeah.
About time, yeah.
Explain the conditioning of so many lifetimes, right? The concepts and ideas of lifetimes or lifetimes.
Yes. And you have to do it all in one lifetime. You don't know whether you're coming back or not. Yeah, only human lifetime it's possible, no? Boss, in this very lifetime. Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure. Only in this lifetime.
In the moment we are born, all these concepts are given by even our people around us, parents, teachers, environment, society. And the sad part is, we as parents also give it to our children. No, you cannot do this, you can do this, there are restrictions for everything. We don't let them find out what exactly it is.
Yeah, that's what we really need to change. Yeah, it is our own insecurity. Oh, my child will be left behind. My neighbor's child will go ahead. Let me also push my child into the rat race. No, you also run. Somebody else's child can get enlightened, not my child. Yeah? Somebody else's child can go on the spiritual path. You run, you become a millionaire. You become a doctor. Yeah? My aspiration, I push on to the child. Yeah? That's what my parents did. That's what my parents' parents did. Same thing we are continuing. Somewhere you have to cut it out. Yeah? Somewhere you have to let go. Yeah? There will be your own insecurities that will come up there, your own fears. You handle it, boss, your business. Don't push it onto the other soul. Yeah? Otherwise, there also we are creating karma. We had enough karma with our parents and family members. That is why they threw all that conditioning back at us. Yeah? It's best not to throw it forward now anymore. Cut the karma as much as possible. Just work on your own self. Yeah? Do your best, but don't push conditioning on kids. Recognize this. This is the best thing you can do as parents. Really. So I will see you next week. See that you do your homework. Yeah. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.